So welcome to Council Chambers, our October 21st agenda and priorities meeting. I'm going to call to order Councillor Dunham to do the land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Councillor Heistad. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we're meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tsuut'ina Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Thank you, Councillor Dunham. Adoption of the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions? Nothing? Okay. Need an adoption of the agenda. Need a motion. Councillor Wing.
Thank you. I would make that motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay, motion's been made. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay. Next on the agenda is strategic priority update. CO Becker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mr. Chair, this is a standing item on your agenda for agendas and priorities. It's there for your review. If there's any questions in reference to the priorities, be happy to answer your questions.
Councillor Bates.
Yeah, just as I've looked at these and we seem to cruise through them frequently, I almost wonder if priority 1 shouldn't slide down the list a little bit. It's still important, but I'm not so sure as tax policy isn't perhaps more important, and just by timing.
Thanks. CO Becker.
Duly noted. Yeah, not really identifying drought water conservation plan as the immediate priority. It is based on council's directive, but on the staff side to support council's priority, it's not considered a priority from the other work that's being done with the other priorities.
Okay. Any further questions on the strat priorities? No. Looking for a motion to proceed. Councillor Dunham.
Deputy Mayor, I move that we accept that as information.
Thank you. It's properly moved. All those in favor? And that's carried. Next on is 3.2, request for information bike park facilities master plan.
Thanks, Councillor Bates. I'll take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have actually in the gallery, I have Jay Hoot. He'll come forward and help us present this as well. Just do a quick background while Jay comes to the front here. So back in August, administration proceeded with providing council an update on the bike park facility master plan. And at that time, we reviewed the matrix location report. From that report, we did proceed, or we had 7 locations evaluated in the report with concept renderings to be developed for 4 of the 7 that were in that report. Jay has provided us a quick presentation here to just go through the 4 locations and the renderings that he's come up with.
Jay, if you can hit that button there on the mic, then we can. Thanks.
We'll check that works fine. Excellent. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me to talk about bike parks, my favorite thing in the whole wide world. So basically, I guess we can go to that's a nice shot of my hometown is on the bottom right. And then we've got some Alberta parks that follow all around on that title page. Lots of different options to keep kids busy and people on bicycles. Next slide, please. So My company and where I come from, basically, we are the very first bike park company in the entire world. And when we figured out how to do it, we traveled around the world and taught everybody else. And then we started in North Vancouver. And then 8 years ago, we forwarded our company into Alberta. So we're actually out of Edmonton, and our shop is out of Hinton. And then we still have an office in North Vancouver. We are long-time Professional Trail Building Association members, as well as IMBA members, and to date we've got just over 68 parks completed. We have our own proprietary guidelines and standards, as well as doing bike park builds. We do assessments, and we also do maintenance. I myself am a professional mountain biker. I actually just retired after 23 years of riding for narco bicycles in all demands, from racing, downhill, rampages, dirt jumping. And so now I've kind of gone into the realm of more business and less play. Through my experience with bike parks, I've traveled the world teaching other municipalities and other agencies. We work collaboratively to figure out how to get these in other areas, their jurisdictions. And through that, I worked with the IMBA, the International Mountain Bike Association, and was actually a contributor to 2 different books, as well as being the lead instructor for the mountain bike operations program out of Capilano University on the subject. So bringing all that together, I was asked to come to Innisfil to have a look and evaluate and see whether or not bike parks were a good idea here, and if they were, where that might be. So our main guiding resources, we took first steps, our preliminary steps in here, was basically to go through the Recreation, Leisure, Cultural Services and Amenities Plan, the Trails and Pedestrian Master Plan, and then we had multiple conversations both with Innisfil staff and with Rotary Club staff as well, or Rotary Club people, Tammy, to be able to try to figure out who your community is, what you're about, and how we could best come here to build your bike park in your backyard instead of just something that some product that we have. So going through those documents, it was very informational, gave a lot of background. They were great documents to read. It wasn't too overbearing, and it set the stage for next steps. Next, please. We, through our dialogue with Stephen and Tammy and a few others, we came up with several places to do our initial site reviews, and we traveled around Innisfil looking at different green spaces to try to figure out, it wasn't just the cherry pick spots. It was actually quite a few areas to look at, all good, all bad, and everything in between. And then using our matrix that we have for site evaluation, we basically went through and evaluated each one individually for its how to prioritize the bike park or the potential for a bike park. And that's everything from access and first response to how to get materials in and out to also the ease to be able to, like, where it's placed in community for people to get to, and how much of a environmental footprint will we have while we're designing, while we're building, and then what does that mean after the build. So just to try to streamline things for this presentation for today, we took the 4 main sites that were chosen as the best sites available. The 2 sites on the top, Max Playground and Connor, are smaller sites, and the lower ones are they would be the where the former BMX track is, and then the soccer fields. Those would be the two larger areas that would have lots of ability to either do full build out or phased development. So on the site, I guess we could go to the next one, please. So basically what we did was we had a look at the site. We compared it to other parks that we've developed in other different areas. And then for in terms of the master plan, our directive was pretty clear. It wasn't to give you a document that's going to show you what you will build. Our understanding of this whole project was to come in and identify key strategic areas and then give you a visual like scale of what the opportunities could be, whether it was dirt jumping, pump track, or skills features. But based on our design process and how we sort of do our costing and budgeting, everything that we've given you from a price line, like for all the price evaluations, is based on real numbers. This is all shovel-ready projects. And so what each of these does is demonstrates the scale in which each of these sites could be developed and how the price could be to that. So that said, what we've done is we've gone to each of these sites. We've given several options for each site, but the real thing here is when this master plan is completed, it'll have all the details for this, but the expectation would be that there would be a public input meeting and the public would be engaged, and whether they would come out and review this stuff and then just say what they like, or whether they would like to develop there would be a robust sort of input kind of thing. One way or another, the idea would be to take all of this information that we're supplying and then somehow have a public workshop to be able to get the public's input to finally know what your park would look like. So this one is just additions to kids' playgrounds, which has basically just small pump tracks and some skills features. The next slide, please. The Cannon Playground, same thing, kids' playground currently exists, and it would be just an expansion on it. It could be both or like either or, the features or the pump track. And again, on the right, we've kind of given sort of a visual as to what you would get for the pricing along the way, and then what that might look like in terms of the actual physical build. Those are all parks that we have built, and those are the physical assets in the ground. So then next slide, please. So moving over to the soccer field, this particular area we thought was a really good area, and posed one of the better baselines to be able to do park development. But it could have anything on there. You can see from the far left, we've identified pretty much everything that comes in a bike park in all the bubbles. And then to the center, we've indicated a basic jump line. And then to the right, you can see how that same basic jump line can have other features expanded into the site. And that can all happen at once or in a phased scenario. And so then what we've done is we sort of celebrated the large site and said, you know, what would capacity be for this? And so you can see, you know, on the upper, there's the potential for a really large, crazy paved track or anything in between. Okay. Yep, thank you. The last site here. So the BMX site, the existing BMX site, I think is probably my favorite site of all of them. I think that this site has got a unique topography. It's historically already had bicycles on it. It has materials available in it. So I think this one has the least amount of environmental impact, I think it's the easiest one to kind of celebrate moving forward and renovating something that was there into something spectacular and different. And lots of diversity and opportunity in the features at the park area. I think the other note on it would be that we recognize on this site specifically, as well as the soccer site, both of them have both neighbors as well as other user groups on them, and at every angle and every opportunity, there would be an expectation that we would engage those other groups to figure out, where bike park stuff could actually fit in and around. So it could be a collective experience. In all of these different sites, we've all the estimated costs and stuff will all be documented in the reports, and each of these sites actually comes with the annual maintenance, with basically an evaluation based on the scale of what that would look like. Next slide, please. So there's the BMX one. So what we've done is the upper track, option 1, as indicated in the documents that are in your package. That's the lower priced one. We feel that one is a really achievable value, and given sort of the feedback that we've gotten from folks in town and the excitement to be able to be involved with it, we think that would be a really great community project, a scope. And then below that, on option 2B, I feel that ultimately would be the build out and what it would look like. The trails around the park are actually just basic trails, less than 7%. Averaging maybe like 4 to 5%, so that everybody can actually have access to the park and ride around it. And then there's a skills area in there, and then the existing hockey pad, or whatever that concrete pad was. I think it was a hockey one. Rather than tear it out, we think that you should just celebrate it and either come up with street lines on it and make it so that juniors could get on it and figure out how to ride down figurative streets, or maybe there's like some sort of arts type thing that could be done on it. But one way or another, the idea would be to try to build as best as we could with native natural materials, using local rocks and logs, and then milled wood in the park from anything close. If not, we actually have partners that do milling and all that stuff, and we could come up with that as well. So it would be all Alberta materials. Next, please. So that's kind of the quick and dirty on everything. That's a picture of Black Falls. We built that and have been going back every year to do maintenance on it, and have a great relationship with them where we work with their maintenance department to collaboratively keep the park running. So when they have technical issues and technical problems, then we're on the phone, and then whenever when they're doing landscaping and all the other side, then we're there to help them take big steps forward without getting in the way of the activity in the park. So yeah, and I kind of just threw the usual questions that we kind of get up there and stuff, but I would throw it out there. Anybody who has anything, please feel free.
Thanks, Jay. I guess for council to be aware, maybe a little more explanation in regards to the costs and what's included in your cost estimates. Like when we say phase 1 for the bike park could be 300 to 700,000, what does that mean? What does that entail?
Yeah, good question. So costs basically assume that the site is in a reasonable condition, where it doesn't need massive massive drainage or things of that nature. It just assumes that it's a neutral site that could actually have materials brought into it. And then at that point, costs basically cover, in every aspect, it covers all the materials volumes. So whatever it is for the sub-base to be brought up into base, and then what the feature volumes are as well as all the fasteners, labor, machines. I think that should cover it. Fuel, everything, basically from bottom to top. It's all in there, and then we have spreadsheets for all of that. So every one of those park designs that are in there have documentation as to why the costs are that.
Thanks, Director Kennedy, and thanks, Jay. Excellent presentation. I'm going to ask my colleagues, Council, do you have any questions for Jay or Director Kennedy? Councillor Dunham.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. I just, first of all, want to say thank you very much. I like how granular it is. I really look forward to diving in and seeing actually the different cost breakdowns and that involved in each one. Personally, looking at them and having been to a couple of those sites, I mean, I can definitely see them fitting in very, very well along the soccer fields as well as along the old bike track site there. But yeah, really, really well done, and look forward to seeing where we go with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Anybody else? Questions? Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just one question for Jay. Thank you for providing that picture, actually. Your presentation is great, but the picture at the end from Blackfalds is really informative. Can you give me an estimate of how big that site is in Blackfalds?
2.5 to 3 acres.
Acres, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. That's what I thought.
Councillor Bates.
Yeah, the one, the one question I have, I guess, is probably through to admin. As it was looked at for the old bike track area, has it been considered, when I hear the cost assumes like a normal field, that there is environmental test wells in there, and would we have any future concerns about if we were doing something permanent?
Everything has to be ground up. Jay's aware that, yeah, this is an old landfill site. We are monitoring, testing that site right now, so we're hopefully, within the next couple of years, be able to come forward with what that looks like, results from it, because it is a work in progress. So I'm not too sure what else to address in regards to, just other than awareness, that we do know that that it is an old landfill site.
We have.
Thank you.
We have worked on 6 different parks, and 2 of them major on landfill sites, and all of those sites are from different years, different decades. So from the 1930s to, I think the latest one was 1985. So there's different, they've reclaimed them completely different, and the way that we've had to go in and work on top of those sites have been, they've been completely different animals for sure, yeah. In fact, the one in North Van District didn't even have documentation, so we had to actually work really closely with staff to be able to develop how we did that one.
Yeah, no, thank you for that answer. The only reason I asked is I think we just started monitoring that just this year, so it's just the risk of potentially building something permanent if all of a sudden we don't like what we're monitoring. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bates. Good question. Mayor Barclay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jay, for the presentation. It was excellent. Curious, the BMX site, the cement pad was actually the old skate park, believe it or not.
Oh,
but
sweet.
yeah. But do you see the Blackfalds site? It's obviously dirt, and so would you see a dirt site, or would you see? I know some of your other diagrams have been pavement, and I'm also curious about integrating with other users. I love the approach that you're taking about going to the community and talking to other user groups. And, you know, tobogganing on that hill is pretty busy in the wintertime, and just wondering how you see that fitting with a potential bike park sitting on that site.
So we have probably 6 or 7, probably maybe no, even more than that, but 7 for sure, parks that the priority has been their toboggan site. Fox Creek is one of them. They were actually one of the first ones that we built where that was, when we went and did public input, the number one thing was don't mess that up. When we build the trails on those sites, the trails are just cut in, they're just a bench cut or semi-bench cut in there. So it doesn't really, it fills in with snow before anything, so it doesn't actually create any issues. And then building, if we know that that's the priority, is that we need to maintain that, then we can structure, so one, we can put all the placement of all the features in the right areas, and it's all about putting people in the right spot and putting other people in the other. So we could even regrade the way that the main hill goes, so that way when tobogganing does happen or sledding does happen, it can go, people will veer that direction. So there are ways for sure, and it is the priority based on what the feedback that we got was.
Thank you. Just one more,
You bet.
Chair. I guess as far as administration goes, like next steps, I mean, obviously budget, we need to know what contributions are from external stakeholders from the town of Innisfail, grant opportunities. So would you be building like a business case, Director Kennedy, to bring back to us on finances and?
Yeah, I guess recommended next steps would be to if council's open, to take these renderings to get some public feedback in regards to the sites. What we'd like to do is gather that information, and then from that come forward with, yeah, like what's changed from these renderings, and then how do we approach the development of the sites themselves. We're, I guess, proposing probably going to the public January, February, so this will be like a next year definitely project, and it takes time to fundraise, obviously, in collaboration with the Rotary Club, and figure out those funding mechanisms. So I guess that would be our next step, is get some public input first, and then come back to you with some strategies on how to fund and prioritizing who's taking on what. Yep.
Okay, any further questions to Director Kennedy or Jay? No, Councillor Bates.
Yeah, following up on the mayor's question, at some point, we would have to also prioritize this project relative to the other unfunded projects that we have, which were coming into budget, obviously, so maybe we get that done before we would go to public or whatever.
Yep. I think really when it comes to funding, it's the mechanism of how do we want to fund these projects. And really, the Rotary's been instrumental with bringing the project forward, and really is that mechanism of the public running this project. And so in regards to, once we have a better idea of what that step is working with the Rotary Club, and then finding out what kind of contribution the town can do based on what's available for funding, and then what contribution Rotary then needs to come up with for the remainder of the project. So really it comes down to, if it's a $700,000 project, it's not the town's gonna pay $700,000, it's what mechanism is it that, the town can donate, have some of funds available, and then the Rotary and maybe other associations can get the rest. And the project really doesn't proceed until those funds are in place. So it's having those conversations, during budget deliberations, and do we set that now, or do we set that after we know a little more on the project in the direction going forward?
Yeah, I don't want to throw a negative slant at all, but as we built the skate park, it proceeded in its funding infancy, and then ultimately we realized it wasn't going to get built unless we built it. I mean, the major share had to come from the town. So that'll all come in due course. And budget is going to happen here in November. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bates. Any further questions for Jay or Director Kennedy? No, and so I guess we'd need a motion on that. My comments would be as in the chair, great presentation. Thanks for all the work. I see those two sites being an option, but I'm kind of, myself, I kind of lean towards the old soccer area because I'm risk averse on this one with the dump, but I think everything's been excellent. So thanks, Jay, for coming here today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, so next steps would be to proceed.
Motion?
I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the report for information.
Thank you, Councillor Wing. Any further questions? All those in favor? All right, carried. And next we have disc golf, 3.3. Director Kennedy.
Councillor Heistad. So, yeah, so I am asking Tim from the Kinsman to come forward in providing some response in regards to some timelines that we've had for the disc golf, as well as providing some feedback in regards to the comments that council provided last week. So I'll hand it over to Tim.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Tim. Donnie.
I'd like to thank council for having us in today. Before I start answering the questions, I did want to provide a little bit more timeline. Director Kennedy in his report provided a pretty good summary, but I wanted to add a little bit more. Disc golf, the Kinsman originally started on this back in July of 2020. We looked at the opportunity to build one. The community came to us. There's a lot of interest in it. So back in November 19th, 2020 was when council first made a motion to approve that 18-hole disc golf in theory, and that we would work with town administration to move it forward. There was a very nice article in the newspaper in December 1st of 2020. So March 8th, 2021, we had the front nine had been designed in concept. We got approval from the town April 27th, 2021 to stake it out. May 11th, we did a walk with operations. We made some adjustments. And May 25th, we took a walk with council of the front nine. June 25th, we had an agreement signed to move forward. October of 2021, we had the first front nine built and sold our sponsorship, and it's been well used. We started working on the back nine in 2022. There were some growing pains, expectations on level of maintenance. Some people had different ideas when we built the course and when we worked with administration. It wasn't going to be like a golf course and it wasn't going to be manicured. And we worked through that and everyone bought into it. And then we started working on the back nine. And we went through a number of iterations from what we originally presented back in 2020. There was concerns about proximity to the lake and whatnot. So we did a bunch of changes and we came back May 3rd of this year with the back nine redesigned and ready to go. May 13th, we did a walk and we got some input from operations and we did another redesign. May 24th, we did another walk with operations and we got it into a position where operations were comfortable with what we proposed. A package went to council. The final design was submitted to council August 27th of this year and September 9th. That package went to council. It was accepted for information on September 9th. September 19th, we did a walk with council and we were going to go to the next council meeting for a decision. That got delayed a couple times and so we're about a month later from that walk. And we've got basically the same package that was presented on September 9th for information is what we've brought forward. Since then, council has brought forward a few questions and we'd like to be able to address those today. So concerns with holes 12 and 14 paralleling the natural trail, it is very narrow. This part of the course was revised in consultation with the town. Both holes 12 and 14 are short, so the players at the tee box can see the basket. They can see that there's nobody in the way, thus avoiding potential conflicts. We have other in the front 9 where we parallel or we're on the trails, and to date there's been no incidents or concerns raised to Kinsman, and I believe there's only been one raised to the town. The second question concerns the hole 13 being very rough, lots of holes in a low-lying area. When we have identified work is required, the council members that were on the walk with us, we've had discussions with operations that we'd like to do a shortcut through the bush and eliminate that low wet area, shorten that up, and make that better. So that's definitely on our radar. Effects on the ecosystem. To date, I don't believe there's been any impacts on the ecosystem as a result of the front 9. In fact, I would suggest that there's probably more impacts with a lot of the other uses that go up there, including dog walkers and whatnot, will have a bigger impact than the individuals throwing some discs. Any registered complaints, incidents of interference between players and pedestrians on the trails. So to date, and the course has been in play for 2.5 years, Kinsman have not received one negative comment with regards to that. And checking with the town, I don't believe the town's had any concerns with regards to that interference. Concerns of the hole 10 crossing the drainage and interfering with the gazebo. We've looked at that. That drainage course runs past the gazebo, past the stage, all through there. Is very intermittent. I don't believe it's going to be an issue. If we find it's an issue, then a small bridge could be built over that drainage ditch, or we could go in with some landscaping material and beef up the grass like they do on a golf course or some of those things. In regards to any interference with the gazebo, as we had mentioned on the walk and working with operations, that's one area we'd like to plant a couple trees. Sort of on the course plays up, the gazebo's here, we'd put the trees kind of like bunkers around the basket that would eliminate that. The gazebo is still a fair significant distance away from where the basket's proposed. Most of the people playing out there, after they play over a bit of time, they're getting those discs fairly close. Are portable baskets an option? No. Unfortunately, if we put portable baskets up there, they would disappear. The baskets we have, though, are removable. They have a pin and a lock, and the town has access to the key. So if we needed to remove one for a big weekend event, let's say Harvest Festival up there, we wanted to close hole 10, operations could undo the lock, pull the pin, take the basket off, hole 10 will be closed for the weekend. So there is that ability to close it off. The baskets are removable. So that addresses question 7, possible conflicts with festivals and public events. So if need be, there aren't very many that big down there, but the Harvest Festival, Canada Day, when it was up there, Canada Day got moved to the arena. So I think there's a way to work around that. How many tournaments per year and how many people would attend? The Kinsmen haven't been involved with any of the tournaments to date. Once we get the back 9 done and there's a potential to run a big tournament, that's when we would look with those that use it. There may be some opportunities. I do know to date there was over 2,080 rounds registered this year alone, and something like estimated about 8,000 rounds in the last 2.5 years. It's well played. I drive up and down Centennial Hill on a fairly daily basis, and there's always somebody up there playing it. Could the designer come with the Kinsmen to present? The Kinsmen have designed this course in consultation with a number of local players in the community. It's a Kinsmen-led project, so the Kinsmen will have that interaction. Should it be taken to the public for feedback? Has the Kinsmen had public feedback? The initiative started in the summer of 2020 at the request of a number of local citizens and some former Kinsmen members, some who are in the gallery today. There's significant input from the disc golf community into the design of the course. Our course And I haven't played a lot of them. I've seen a lot of them. When I worked in Red Deer, we had them around some of my facilities. One was at Anders Lake. It's an open field. They have a few baskets. People throw it out in an open park while people are walking their dog. People are playing soccer, playing baseball. There's not a lot of impact and a lot of interaction between the two. There's significant interest in the completion of the back nine. Go to Innisfail Disc Golf and see the comments. I've been politically correct in trying to work with a lot of the public because they're anxious to get this done. We hope to have gotten this done and built this year. And I know from the disc golf community, there's a lot of frustration. We've asked them to work with us so that we can work with council to get something that's going to work good up there. So that's hopefully addresses the questions council has, if there's others.
Okay, thanks, Tim, for answering those questions. Councillors, do you have any questions for delegation? And Director Kennedy.
I guess we'll keep it open, but I guess what we are looking for is some direction in regards to bringing the report back to council if they're for formal adoption, hopefully next week. But yeah, we'll provide any more feedback for the Kinsman. That'd be great.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Wing.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So this would be through to our delegation. I had the opportunity to walk the course last weekend with some of the members of the Disc Golf Club, and it was wonderful. It was very interesting. So this is relative to the 10th tee, which is down by the gazebo. In the conversation that I had with the fellows from the club, they had indicated that there was some flexibility. If that particular location was deemed to be unsuitable, there was flexibility about repositioning that particular tee up in the northeast corner, up by, Juanita, can you scroll that down for me? Yeah, up by the 18th tee, sort of heading off that way, there would be some flexibility. So is that something that you've had a conversation with, and is that something that we could consider?
When we did the original design and working with some of the members, we did identify coming off the 17th or the 18th basket and working our way back in. There's the opportunity to put one up in there. If that worked better, it wasn't their preference. Their preference was the location of the 10th tee, but if that was a deal breaker, that we could relocate it up and come off the 18th and back towards the basket of number 11.
Okay, because that truly was one of the larger conversations we had was around that low-lying sort of wetland down around the gazebo and the 10th tee, and I appreciate that the diagram sort of shows the way that drainage area works, but if that might be just something for us to consider, and that was something that they had indicated that they would be willing or able to discuss as well. So, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wing. Mayor Barclay.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tim and Donnie, for coming today, and the rest of your club. I as well, I have some concerns with the 10th tee, that close to the gazebo, just because that area is used a lot. There's people that sit in there, there's pipers. I was down the other night, there was people actually standing in the drainage ditch with a photographer, and I don't know, it was an engagement party or something was going on, but you know, I just think it's kind of a quiet area that people tend to go and sit and watch the lake or the birds or whatever happens down there. And my other question, just to refresh my mind, so 12 and 14, those holes are sitting on the existing nature trail, or correct?
Correct.
So the basket and the cement pad will be on the nature trail?
No, when
or
we
is it
did
to
the
the
walk,
side?
we had showed that we could put the basket would be off to the edge of the trail.
Okay.
And there's some areas where there's a lot of deadfall and whatnot that we would clear out, put the basket just
Yeah,
off
it looks
the
like there's a
trail.
lot being cleared out already, but I don't know if the town's doing that or not, but okay, that's what I wasn't sure of, because I go through there and I see there's new markers, and I couldn't remember if it was right on the trail. I just worry about, like, cyclists go through in the wintertime, and don't want them hitting a concrete pad if they don't know it's there, but, so those are my concerns, was number 10, and then just kind of the location on 12 and 14 on the existing nature trail.
Yeah, the intent was to have the baskets and the tee boxes off the trail.
Okay, Thanks, Mayor Barclay. Councillor Dunham.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Thanks, Tim and Donnie, for coming in. I did have an opportunity to go out with Director Kennedy the other day to have a look. I'm a lot more comfortable with it now that I've had an opportunity to go out and see and how you've offset the tee-off and the nets off the trails. I do also appreciate the fact of how much work would go into doing the cut across through that rough area, but I think it's a much better use of it. And my only concern was the 10th tee as well, to be very honest. And I think that's a concern for a lot of people, as you've heard, is that potentially that could be moved. But other than that, you know, it's a mixed use area. If there hasn't been conflict, potentially there could be as it's used more, but it's bound to happen. And you know what, as long as people respect each other and respect the use of it, then it should be good. So really appreciate it all. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Bates.
If we could scroll back down again. I guess the question I would have, if it's considered that the 10th tee is a conflict with the gazebo, anybody that's looked at this, could it be shifted so that you didn't have to relay the whole course, but just have it in a little more remote from the gazebo? Has anybody looked at that, and the people that are, well, I guess to the mayor, because you brought the concern up about how the gazebo is used and it's peaceful and quiet, is it visualized that it could be somewhere else down there and still leave the rest of the layout the way it is, so we don't create another problem somewhere?
Tim.
So a couple options. The 10th basket, which I believe is what the concern is a significant distance from the gazebo. It really more impacts that open area where the outdoor rink goes in the wintertime or when there's a big event up there, because the basket is the white dot for the 10th tee.
No, I understood the tee to be the problem.
You're talking the other little gazebo. Sorry, I thought you were talking the blue gazebo. If it's just an issue of shortening it up a little bit and moving it away from there, that's an opportunity as well. If it's the tee box that's
Yeah,
the issue.
and I can't tell from this topography, is it possible to put it on the other side of the drainage ditch and make it is that a one throw to get there, or no, or do you do two? Can you go around the corner? I'm not going to sit here and design it. I'm just trying to hear the concerns and see if there's a fix.
Yes, Councillor Bates, there's, on either side of the drainage ditch, there has been vegetation control done on both sides. So obviously, it comes down to, you know, the facilities. If we were able to cut that grass on that side, it's already a narrow-ish path. I would say probably about 7-8 feet. It is a very reachable throw. If not, it would obviously land right of the tee box, and then there'd be a second throw into the actual basket. So I think that that would be totally achievable. And if there had to be any type of trees or anything that the town would approve of, whatever's part of your guys' plan, we would put in whatever vegetation or trees to obviously protect. If there was a you know, an area that was of concern, we're totally open to planting any desired trees by the town. We want to work with you guys to make something that's very easy to maintain and looks very attractive and enhances the area, not detracts from it. So I don't think moving the tee box left or right or forward 100 feet, whatever it would work best for the town, I think that's totally achievable.
Hole 10 is 340 feet long from tee box to basket as it's laid out right now. So if we needed to shift the tee box to the east and move it off a little bit, I don't think that'd be an issue. It comes down to operationally, we've walked this and worked this with operations a couple or more times. Really where we're at, you know, we presented this package back in September for information, and we're now the end of October and we're still only going for information. We want to move this project forward. We had hoped to get this project, get the baskets, at least get the baskets in the ground this year so that the interest could be played. So if it takes shift in hole 10 or relocating it up off of 18, tell us and we can do it, and then give us approval so we can move forward.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest thing where we want to go. If we need to make an adjustment, we can do that.
Okay. Well, thanks for that information. I know Mayor Barclay's got a
Yeah, I
question.
just wanted to clarify, Tim, like when I said the gazebo, it's a small gazebo, not the big one, so I don't know if I could pull that black dot to the east. Kind of solves the
I
problem,
can
right?
do it right now. if
Well,
you
I
give me-
could, but yeah,
Yeah, I don't think that's a concern. For it to slide over
yeah,
and
that's,
get it away from the gazebo, because we think there might be some
Yeah.
conflicts.
it
we
was
can
just
move
more
it.
people sitting in the gazebo, having their quiet time, whatever, and then there's 5 people standing around the tee boxes.
Yeah, we could shift that 25 feet to the east and keep the similar alignment and solve that problem easily.
Okay. Thanks.
And Deputy Mayor, one more thing to add if I could.
Sure.
As far as the install for like the initial install would basically be just the baskets themselves, which would be a 12-inch augered hole, about probably 24 to 30 inches deep. It is something that we have been using concrete, so it is something that in the event that we found a basket that it was it was not desirable, it would be something that we'd be able to relocate very easily. The T-pads would be put in once everyone was comfortable where it would go, because obviously that's the bigger, more permanent asset to put in. But just, that would be the desire, is to just get the 9 baskets installed with an auger 12-inch hole. And if it needed to be moved from one side of the path, trail path, to the other, if we got complaints for whatever reason, that's totally doable. Very, very liquid in trying to get it installed, but also if there is any areas of concern that come forward, we would be very responsive to that to make sure it is not a burden, so.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Any further questions? I was just going to comment. Great presentation. Thanks to the Kinsmen and the disc golf users. I walked it. I think it's great for a community. So I guess, I don't see any further questions for Director Kennedy or delegation. Tim, you got one last one?
Will we get that timeline? Is that what is the intent now?
Well, and that's what I was going to get at.
Okay.
So I was trying to land in the basket, hopefully. No, I'm joking. No, Director Kennedy, do you have anything else to add?
I have nothing else to add.
No, it's, how I see it's in the hands of council and CO Becker.
As for the director's comments, if there's any further questions today or later, it would be the intent of administration to target in the immediate future, likely into next week, but certainly we'll work with administration to proceed into a formal recommendation to
Okay.
proceed. Likely we can get a map to demonstrate the 10th tee to swing east for a formal recommendation next Monday.
Thanks, CO Becker. So as I look at my agenda, I said I need a recommendation that we accept this as information. Am I correct? Okay.
I'll make that motion, Councillor, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, Deputy Mayor. Thanks, Mayor Barclay. So motion has been made to accept this as information. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried.
Yeah, and we can't make motions today. You're probably aware of that. You're worked in government long enough, but we can't make a motion to accept this today. It has to come to a regular council meeting.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So we're next on the agenda. We got Community Services Policy Review. So CO Becker, do you want to?
I'll let Manager Mackenzie speak to this.
Okay. Kristen, thanks for being here today.
Awesome. So it's just an opportunity to provide council the opportunity to provide us some feedback regarding multiple different draft policies that you have in front of you. So the Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Grant, which would be new to us, Sport Tourism Grant, also new to us, Sponsorship and Request for Funding Policy, again, a new policy, and then a revised facility allocation and booking policy. So just through conversation with yourselves and the Community Services Standing Committee, it was determined that a review of our current community grant policy was required, just to allow us to provide further clarification to address the various requests from community groups and organizations for grant funding, sponsorship requests, and waiving and/or discounting facility rental fees. So we have reviewed existing policy and with your input from previous meetings, as well as that from Community Services Standing Committee, have created two new policies that would replace the current community grant policy, as well as address some of the other desired outcomes that that policy didn't currently support. So we'll start, first grant policy would be the Recreation, Culture, and Tourism Grant. So this would provide eligible community groups and organizations with funding to support events and projects taking place in town. Events or projects must have a focus on arts, culture, heritage, community wellness, recreation, leisure, improving accessibility and inclusion. The grant would cover up to 50% of eligible expenses to a maximum dollar amount of $2,500. It would be a single application intake. Currently, our community grant policy is open year-round. Organizations should only apply for the same event a maximum of 3 times to encourage diversity in events and foster self-sustaining community initiatives. Ineligible expenses include sport-related events and programs. All applications will be reviewed by the Community Services Standing Committee through outlined evaluation criteria, in the hopes that providing some criteria would also make reviewing those grant applications a little easier. And then to address the sport-related event piece that has come up multiple times, the sport tourism grant policy, which would provide financial support to sporting events hosted in the community that generate an economic, social, cultural, and sustainability benefits. It's not intended to support reoccurring and annual events. Eligible events would include development sports, non-traditional or emerging sports, competition happening at the provincial, western, national, or international sport level, as well as multi-sport games. The funding limits would be based on event categories. The approval would happen through the CAO or designate, unless it was an application for international or multi-sport due to the potential of up to $5,000 of eligible funding. These would come forward to council for review. Sponsorship and requests for funding policy, just because there's been some overlap in the last little while. Requests for sponsorship may be submitted by organizations operating within Innisfil or benefiting the community. Requests should address specific community needs or benefit the community as a whole. Each request would be considered on a case-by-case basis, taking into account the unique characteristics of the event or initiative, the anticipated benefit to the community, and alignment with town priorities. These requests would continue to come forward as a request for decision from council. And then adjustment to our facility booking and allocation policy, just to address requests of free or discounted facility rentals beyond what we already acknowledge through our user groups, so youth and nonprofit rates, for example. The policy has been edited to add the provision of space at a discounted or no charge rate shall not be accommodated, and that users are encouraged to explore grant funding programs to offset facility costs where eligible. So our hope is just to provide some enhanced clarity and understanding through clearer guidelines for community groups as well as ourselves regarding eligibility and processes. It will encourage diverse community events and also reduce reliance on repeated funding requests and hopefully streamline some of the approval process through clearer pathways for decision making.
All right, well, thanks so much for this work. Any questions? And CO Becker, do you want to add anything or?
Deputy Mayor, I think it's well covered by the manager. I think it's a lot of work by the team to make sense of some of the demands and requests of council and administration and committee, and I think just commending the staff for putting this together.
Yeah, it's Thanks for this. It was a lot of work. I see Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you to Kristen. Thank you. Thank you all so much. I mean, having been a part of the CSS committee since I first got on here, I know how difficult it has been for you. And as somebody who is now going into their 4th year on the committee, I'm very excited how this will potentially streamline things and make it a lot easier for us in our decision-making process. Just one observation, the number for the $5,000 for the sports, am I allowed to address how we came to that level? Because
Yeah, reviewing other communities'
Okay.
sport tourism grants. That was a number that resurfaced several times. That being said, ours doesn't have to read that way either.
Yeah.
But I had to put some numbers in, so.
Absolutely. No, just checking, because
Yeah.
that one kind of, when I read that in the package over the weekend, I was kind of like, oh, wow.
And
that's-
again, it is up to, so there's no guarantee that that would be what they are eligible for. That would be brought forward from administration to council for that final decision.
Absolutely. And then just one last thing. To date, okay, I want to be very sensitive on how I say this because I don't want to offend anybody or get myself in trouble, but sitting on several different committees and seeing that this committee gets a facility for free and yet this other committee doesn't get it for free, and the chitter chatter that I've heard behind that is, I'm glad that we're going to be addressing that. And are we all going to be on a level playing field going forward? Is that sort of what I'm reading in there, that there's
So
no?
that is the intention with that facility allocation and booking policy, is up till now, that's kind of been a who you know and how you ask kind of situation for certain groups and organizations. And a lot of those groups that we do currently support in some capacity will very well be able to access support for the first little while. But recognizing that as a municipality, we do recognize our youth and our nonprofits through lowered, reduced facility rates. The intention is to try and level that playing field a little bit.
Amazing. Well, once again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for making our jobs easier going forward.
So we've got Councillor Bates and Councillor Wing.
Yep, I just noticed that our recommended motion today is to direct this to come back to be the policy. So in that, oh, my screen just went blank. So in that vein, I guess the question I have is, under the financial impacts, it's of course mentioned how much we've been allocating annually, and obviously budget would direct how much would be the next year. Do you have a ballpark gut feel or anything, whether this is going to make a big impact on the budget? Just curious.
So at this point, we don't anticipate it having a huge impact. Right now, what's covered under that sponsorship and request for funding policy is what council typically, you guys have a line that covers the rodeo and your golf hole sponsorships and things like that. So we're hoping, so we'll allocate a similar amount.
No, I
to
just wanted
past.
that feeling because we are going to be, I assume we're going to be directing you to bring this back next week as policy, and yeah, then it'll be subject to budget, obviously.
Yep.
No, thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thanks so much for all of this work. I appreciate what it's like to have to peel all those layers back and come up with something. I do have a question relative to the sport tourism grant policy. So are we considering then $5,000 a year that we would allocate? Like, or I mean, what if there's a provincials in a provincials hockey tournament and then a provincials baseball tournament? And how do we predict as a year goes along what's going to happen? That's one question. And then the other is, you know, if it's the U12s this year that have are hosting provincials, but then it's the U12s next year that are hosting provincials, technically they don't qualify, but yet they're different groups under the same organization. So how will we manage that part of it?
Do you want to speak to that?
So the intent would be that we would identify if it's, you know, $4,000 we would put in this sport tourism line, say for 2025, and that would get allocated out as we go through. We will likely have to, you know, revisit that the first couple of years. There's a good chance if like a multi-sport games came up, all of a sudden it was gonna be the 2026 Seniors Alberta Games, that would be a larger conversation with council as well, that we would be able to budget further out. And I don't believe this one has any limitations that, you know, minor hockey might apply year after year, but like you say, it might be the U18s this year, it might be the U12s, it might be different groups, and they're not limited by that. They might host 2 different provincial hockey events, and they would qualify for that, sort of that $1,000 amount.
Okay. Mayor Barclay.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for doing this. I think when we first spoke about this a few weeks ago, it was like, oh my gosh, it's a huge, huge load to figure out. But a couple of questions, Kristen. The sponsorship requests, 30 days in it, that need to come to council. Like, do we feel that's enough time? Because I just think of our summer schedule this last year, and you know, we didn't always meet, and I just don't want somebody to be held up, or they miss 30 days and then we don't get it to council within 30 days. So I'm just curious about that. Secondly, with applying once a year, like, would that be a hindrance at all for an organization where maybe they don't necessarily know, or do they always know what's coming up for the full 12-month for the calendar year going forward? Third, I'm going to, lots of questions here. Yeah, write them down. It kind of goes into, I know part of the policy, you can only apply for the same event for a maximum of 3 times. And I understand the need to encourage diversity and self-sustaining, but when I go to our strat plan, and I always like to go back to that when we're kind of in this decision-making mode, and what did we say back in 2021 and put in there? And, you know, we talked about growing community events in collaboration with local leaders, support local organizations that plan celebrations for festivals, and encourage more community gatherings, particularly in downtown. So I'm just curious, if we had an organization comes forward for 3 years and they get some funding, then all of a sudden it's a no, you know, that funding would now probably fall back on the community, maybe to the business community as an example. And as a town, do we want our name to be continued to be associated with events going past those 3 years? Because I think it's good for the town, it's good for the reputation of the town, it's good for, you know, helping. I think of the one individual that has the Grinchmas thing, and I don't even know if they would qualify under this new policy, because I believe they're an individual as opposed to an organization. You know, and some organizations probably have a lot of ability to raise funds, and others not so much. And would we be finding that, you know, maybe the last 2 or 3 years, you would know more so than we would on events that may stop because the town isn't able to support them anymore due to this 3-year limit? So that was a lot of lot of talking, but.
So I guess we'll start with question number 1. Sponsorship, and are you looking for them to come forward more than 30 days then? Do we want to set, because we say at least 30 days, but do we want, like, so someone could bring it forward well before that 30 days, but do we want to put a higher date value?
Well, I just worry that, you know, sometimes we have a break in our schedule, right? And it doesn't get here, and they may have it on the 30th day. When they see 30 days, they're probably thinking 30 days. So I don't know, maybe 45. I know that doesn't sound much, but it's another 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's an easy edit.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, for sure.
I think, yeah, I'm just going to add, I think the 45 is reasonable.
Okay.
Like when committees or groups are asking, that's where I just want to jump in there. So, anybody else have any comments on that one?
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I know.
Remind me of
No, I'm
question
just on
two,
number
though,
one.
'cause I've
Thank you,
got-
Mayor Barclay.
Oh, yes. So the single intake, we currently do our community benefit fund through a single intake as well. That will not change with any of these policies. That one is currently staying as is. The committee found it really challenging to make decisions regarding allocating funding in the holding out of the what if someone else does come forward. And then it becomes sometimes at the end of the year, well, we've got this funding, we could have maybe given it to Group A at the beginning of the year, knowing that we have it, but we don't. We haven't set a date in policy as to when, like what time of year. And we may need to be a little bit more flexible in the first year of things, and sharing that information is going to be really, really important for groups. I will say that I feel like a large majority of our groups and organizations in town have a general understanding of what they're looking to accomplish in the next year to 2 years even, as far as projects and events are concerned. Any other thoughts around that, though? Do we want to see that changed? We did set 2 tentative intakes this year, with the large majority of them coming in before that first intake, because often folks apply for community grant and community benefit and FCSS funding all around that same time. So we did set a tentative deadline of October of this year to allow us to review what's left, kind of thing. So it is something that we can look at 2 intakes if that's a preferred, but having 2, I wouldn't look at more than 2 ideally. The whole open intake process made it, and
Really
maybe Councillor Dunham can speak to this as well, very challenging for the group to land on decisions, whereas the community benefit fund, we have X amount of dollars, here's the applications, let's review, make a decision, and then everyone knows what that looks like for their organization at that time.
Thanks. Councillor Wing.
Just to clarify, the sport tourism grant is more responsive. It's not a single intake. It's something that happens
That
as
is-
these events come
yes,
up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And won't be brought forward to the committee. It'll be CAO or designate making those determinations. And then as far as 3 years, we did, give me 2 seconds. We use the word should to acknowledge, where does it say?
It's number
Do you
7,
have
number
it?
8 in that policy.
8.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. We went with should only apply, as in they could apply for a 4th, 5th term, with the intention that the evaluation criteria would put some weight on the fact that it was a new event, versus something that we have maybe supported solely or significantly over the course of several years. And also in that evaluation criteria, talking about some of that sustainability. And when we rewrite the application form after the policy is passed, having that piece around sustainability, so the group or organization can also give that some thought as to what does that look like for them moving forward.
Thanks for that. Any further questions for Manager McKenzie? All right, so we got are we moving forward with the recommended motion? Okay, I'll need a motion.
I'll make the motion that council accepts the Recreation, Culture and Tourism Grant Policy number 2024-009, Sport Tourism Grant Policy 2024-007, Sponsorship and Request for Funding Policy 2024-008, and Facility Allocation and Booking Policy number 006 as information, and recommend to regular council meeting for approval.
All right, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried unanimously. Thank you, Manager McKenzie. Okay, and we're off to Health and Safety Audit. CO Becker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So now, as we found out, this is more for maybe Councillor Bates, but I will review it with all the council, just it's good educational for all of us. As of today, the 2024 external audit started. Management met with the external auditor this morning just to go through the lay of the land, what's to come. There's a deep dive into all our processes, procedures, meetings, attendance at meetings. So it's really detailed process. So we, as of last year, we included council as part of the process. But today is intent to review the policy, just give some hints to council with Councillor Bates, and then make myself available over the next few days in advance of an interview that Councillor Bates will be undertaking, as well as I, as a CEO, I'm interviewed each year. I do spend a little time each year to making sure I'm aware of the contents of the policy. So I would like just to walk through the policy, because it will answer all the questions that'll be posed to both myself and to Councillor Bates. I'd like to give you some hints with that. The first paragraph, the town of Innisfail is committed. How is the town committed? The town is committed to providing a high standard of health and safety with the PP&S, the physical, psychological, and social well-being of our employees, contractors, and others on the facilities and work sites. So it's certainly focusing on the PP&S in perhaps a question posed to us. Health and safety is the direct responsibility. So again, easy, who is responsible for the health and safety program of the town? Everybody is, including council. How is council involved is engaging with administration, providing through budget resources to support the program. Direct responsibility of senior management, managers, supervisors, workers, and contractors working in the town facilities and work sites. We all identify workplace hazards and respond appropriately to eliminate or control risk by applying positive control standards and the provision of information, training, and supervision as needed. So today we had a pre-session, training session of council. We identified potential hazard in relation to one of your hazards, as the rest of us, is driving for one, but also public. So those are two immediate hazards likely located on my hazard assessment documentation. So just some comments there. The town will provide health and safety protocols, work procedures, proper equipment, training, and budgetary resources, as kind of stated. Management will set a positive example, and you can certainly take management out of that statement, and council will set a positive example and provide leadership in the health and safety program just by through your leadership and expectations of the CAO. This will ensure that supervisors, workers, and contractors are aware of their health and safety responsibilities under the occupational health and safety legislation, as well as town policies and procedures that must be followed. Supervisors, workers, and contractors must be familiar with and follow the health and safety policies and procedures set up by the town, as well as all applicable provincial and federal acts, legislation, and regulations that are applicable to the activities performed or being performed. All personnel employed by or engaged by the town will ensure health and safety is an integral part of their work. Active participation by everyone, every day, in every job is necessary for the safety excellence the town expects. And it is our goal is a healthy, injury-free workplace for everyone in our facilities and our work sites. And we work together so we can achieve this goal. So there's lots in there, Councillor Bates, but certainly make myself available if you have any questions. But certainly I go really quite deep on this policy review, because it's really the nature of what's coming at us for the upcoming process.
Okay, thank you, CEO Becker. Any questions for Councillor Bates, the ultimate team player?
Could I get a paper copy of
Yeah, definitely.
of anything that
Sure.
would be attached to this or this? And I would highly suggest that all councillors get informed equally, because I guess I'll be speaking for us in case they. call somebody else and says, is that true?
All right. Any further questions for administration? Okay. I'm just looking for a motion. Councillor Bates.
I'll move that council accept the health and safety policy as information.
Okay. And the recommended motion was made. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Next, we go to correspondence and information. So any questions for administration or any questions on that? Mayor Dunham, or Mayor Dunham, Mayor Dunham. How's that? I knew. Deputy Mayor at one time. How's that?
Thank you, Councillor Heistad, Deputy Mayor, Your Worship, whatever. Sorry, my apologies. Who all will be attending the chamber dinner? So I just, to be clear, so all table, we pay, or how is it working? Sorry.
The town will pay, and Juanita sent an invite out a little bit ago, a calendar invite, so.
Okay, I saw the calendar invite, but it was just because a couple of the different organizations I'm part of were also nominated, so I
Well,
wasn't
aren't
sure
you
if I was gonna
special?
sit with them or who all was going.
Well, you decide who to sit
So,
with.
No pressure.
well, but I mean, if the town is paying, then obviously I'll sit at the table with all of you, so that was just, I wanted to. Anyways, thank you very much, I appreciate the
Okay.
answers.
Any more questions on the correspondence now that we're all insulted now? You're not going to sit with us. All right. I guess we need a motion to accept the information.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thanks.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's passed. All right, roundtable discussion. Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will be submitting by Thursday at noon what I have been up to over the last couple of weeks. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Councillor Wing.
I'll be submitting a report this week as well, so I don't have anything to add.
Thank you, Councillor Wing. Councillor Bates.
I usually submit by Friday at 4. So I will. Yeah, MPC, MDP were the main things, and this week looking forward to the Catholic School Board, the Water Commission budget meeting, and business walk, and I will somehow tap into one of the public art follow-ups.
Thanks, Councillor Bates and myself. It's a busy week. Our walk on I think it's Wednesday, as well as just a busy week with the school board as well. So thanks, Mayor Barclay.
Thank you. So had a wastewater commission meeting last week. The preliminary budget number increases 11 cents. And I know last year's budget forecast in our budget, I believe was 20 cents. So I know in the water commission, they're 20 cents so far, correct? That's what you said last week was 20 cents,
I think
Councillor
it's
Bates?
15.
Is it 15? Okay, because I know in our budget for the forecast for 2025, it's 10. So, yeah, so we're looking at about a, I think it was like a 4.3 increase in this year, so we should have that number soon. Energy Innovation Fair that was on the weekend, and I'll put more in my report next week, but I want to thank John Powell and Ken for all the work that they put into that event. The booth looked fantastic. Thank you to SAR CEO Todd Becker for attending on Saturday. And I attended the Friday evening gala, and most of the day, or Saturday up till about 2:30, but the winners of the gala, it's interesting, it's a company called Savic. There was 3 awards, and they actually do straw insulation panels. So they do walls and roofs, and so it takes me back to the old Stramit days in Innisfail. Blind Man Brewery was another winner, and that was for their innovation around carbon capture. So they capture carbon out of the fermentation process, and then they reuse it when they carbonate the beer. And the third and most expiring, of course, is Lacombe Composite High School and the EcoVision program. And had an opportunity to meet Steve Schultz, who's the teacher who spearheaded that program for 20 years now. Connected him with Alex from Deep Sky on Friday evening, so that was kind of a cool conversation to be a part of. And I know that we can certainly have an opportunity to go for a tour at Lacombe Composite High to see all the things they're doing. So they started years ago with a solar array on the school roof, and it's progressed to, they now do beekeeping, they sell honey, they have goats, they also have an edible forest, they have pollinators, they have indigenous gardens and all sorts of things. Like, it is unbelievable. He had 2 students with him that evening, and they were off to Columbia the next day to present at a conference down in Columbia about their project. So speaking with Deep Sky, of course, they haven't got the landscaping plan in place for their site yet, and just listening to those 2 organizations speak with each other and what could be possible at the Deep Sky site. So, and I know Alex would be very interested in going as well. So if council is interested in going for a tour at some point in time, we can potentially set it up. Steve said Wednesdays, I think, were the best day to come. I think they're there till 7 o'clock on Wednesdays, but wow, what a program.
Wow.
So Innisfail was certainly front and center around the event, and both Deep Sky and Varma presented on the panel on Saturday afternoon, and I was on a panel on Saturday morning with Candace from Enhance Energy and Business Renewable Center, Jordan Dye, and Jason Wang from Pembina. So it was a good evening and day for Innisfail, and I love conversations when you're at the Friday evening and somebody said, oh, I met somebody in Calgary and they're thinking about doing such and such. So I said, you need to reach out to Innisfail because that's a community to talk to. So I think that bodes really well for how far this organization has come the last few years and everything that's going on here. So thanks to administration for all the work that you have done to get us to this spot where we are. So it's pretty impressive.
Thanks, Mayor Barclay. Excellent report. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, just listening to the mayor's report, it reminds me of, it's an interesting circle with both the water and sewer commissions, and it even becomes more so when they're together, where we have both, obviously. And that is, they have one source of income, literally one, the production of their service. And when you raise the rates and you combine that with the initiative of the government to conserve water, you sell less. So then next year, you're short. So it's just an interesting circle that it really became evident to me. And every time you talk to any citizen or user, oh, those rates are so high, how can you raise them? But the reality is they have that one source, and nobody's expenses are going down that I'm aware of. So
Yeah,
it's
Chair,
tough.
I would just add to that, that's so true, Councillor Bates, and even the wastewater commission, as you know, I mean, the lower the rate, flow rate, the less money they're going to earn. So when we're in drought conditions or dry conditions like June, the flow rate, which is usually fairly high, was so low. And, you know, kind of struggling with that. I'll put more in the report next week, but SRD has been asked to be a kind of a co-sponsor or leader in a day. So Darwin Dury came to SRD, and he's a consultant and has worked in infrastructure for decades. And so he is hosting a day in Edmonton on November 18th with provincial government, not political people, but staff. And they're bringing in water commissions and wastewater commissions, the CEO and the chair, to discuss some of the challenges that all communities are facing with this respect and the funding. And we did decide that the pond, the emergency storage pond, will move forward in Innisfail for next year. So that's now like a $1.6 million project. And I think when we heard about it in 2016, it was a $650,000 project. So quite a bit different. But I'm really glad to see this taking place in Edmonton, where there's going to be some discussions with the, like municipal affairs and environment, et cetera. So,
I'm sorry, I don't want to extend this, but do you know if our water commission is involved?
my understanding, Councillor Bates, is that everybody's water commissions and wastewater commissions, RD Mug is also being invited, and it's just the chair and the CAO, because I asked, because I thought maybe somebody from
No, that's fine.
administration would be able to go, but not the first time. They're expecting around 60 people.
How do I make sure I know what the name of this event is so that? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. It was a good round table. Mayor Barclay, I'd be interested in going to Lacombe sometime. Yeah, thanks. And I think Janice, or Councillor Wing said that too, and Councillor Dunham.
Yeah,
I think they've done great work, so.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. We can get administration to connect into them and see when everybody can go, and that'd be fun. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Next is upcoming events, 6.1. Anything to add? Motion? Do we?
I'll make a motion to accept upcoming
Thanks.
events as information.
Thank you, Mayor Barclay. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay. Next, we have a motion we'll need a motion to go in camera.
I'll make that motion that we move into camera.
Thank you. All those in favor? There we go. We'll do a 3-minute break.